fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
40 of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing. I said, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey. There's no surrender. Let me hear my battle
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
It's that time of the fortnight once again on the iRacing Esports Network. We're SimSpeed TV. Welcome. From Australia, we bring you one of the premier American racing championships in the GT field. This is the Geodesic GoPro Championship. And for the second time this season, we are stepping away from the United States and going to the UK for Silverstone on the brand new to iRacing Grand Prix layout dating back from 2010. It's fantastic. The current layout of the circuit, and we should see 90 minutes of exciting, hard racing for some great prizes at the end of the season, thanks, of course, to GoPro. I'm Reese Gardiner. Joining me in the commentary box, Jay Kennedy. Jay, it's time for Silverstone. We love this track. We love this series. We love these cars. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm really looking forward to it. And as you said, running the newer layout, or the current layout, it's been a long time in the works in the background, and drivers are struggling a little bit, which I actually quite like. It's nice to see that the drivers are having a little bit of a challenge. Very, very different circuit, and a little bit more slick for these drivers too. The turns 2, 3, 4 complex, really sorting drivers out and making it very, very difficult. It's going to put on some very, very good racing.
Absolutely should. Of course, we've got two classes here, GTLM and GTD. These are the details. So live race control, Geodesic Racing, of course, providing the administration for this series as well as racing in it. And they are right on top of it, as we've seen in the past this season, right on top of penalties, right on top of incidents. So those are the circuit details, and it's fantastic to see that that these guys have been able to get this championship to the level that it is so quickly. As we take a look at the weather settings, it's a reasonably warm track, so the drivers do have a bit of trouble out there on the lower grip surface than the previous layout of Silverstone we had on iRacing.
Yeah, it's surprisingly how slick it actually is. Of course, newer tarmac, and probably hasn't worn in as well as the older version of the circuit did, so it's a little bit more difficult. But as you said too, very, very warm track conditions, 39 degrees Celsius, 102 Fahrenheit, will provide a little bit of difficulty, especially as the track heats up throughout the race as we're racing in midday conditions. make it a little bit more difficult, but that will be more exciting for us to watch at the same time.
Yeah, another thing that's going to be making it more exciting is a bit of a dash for cash. Thanks to Alpine Stars, one of the sponsors of this series, $50 in cash will be awarded to the winner of each class. So there's a little bit of extra incentive there for the drivers, and we've decided qualifying in the first stage of who gets that $50. Well, we will see the first stage of that. Robert Harris, he has had a very successful season so far in terms of poles. He's taken pole at every race so far. Let's take a look at his pole lap. Have a tour around Silverstone in the Team Tortuga Porsche 911 RSR. Very different surroundings to what iRacers are previously used to. Right over the curb into Abbey. Extremely fast opening set of turns here. And this left-hander at Farm is slightly tighter than you think it is. Fast entry into this double hairpin complex, but then all the way down to first gear. Winding on as much lock as you can, making sure you have the grip at the front. So you got to make sure you get through this flat-out left-hander smoothly onto the Wellington straight and down into the Brooklands Luffield complex. This has become much more challenging on the new layout, braking slightly later into third, using as much curb as you dare, get a good entry into Luffield. Almost double apexing it is Harris, and running out all the way over the exit curve to maximize the exit down to the old start-finish straight. And then the old turn one cops. This is a fearsome corner in every single layout Silverstone has had. It's still very fearsome. Fourth gear, slight corrections to the steering as Harris goes through. And then the Maggots-Beckett's Chapel complex. I love these S's. Nice narrow entry. Keeping it in fourth gear, down into third, a little bit of extra turn, and then hard on the throttle over this exit curve. It's been extended on the current layout compared to the older one. And then the hanger straight, slight dip. You got to pick your braking marker. It's a little bit later than you think it is. Just at the 100 marker. Turning very tight in third gear. Super fast cornerstone. Then we're down into Vale and Club to end the lap. Braking late once again through the chicane. Avoid those sausage curbs on the inside and the outside. It'll unsettle the car, but a great exit from Robert Harris to take pole by 0.5 of a second from Tyson Meyer. A fantastic lap.
Yeah, great lap and amazing commitment as well throughout the lap as he was working his way through there. So a great lap, and as we can see on screen now, leading the championship as well. Fairly substantial lead he's got too after the last round. He has one hand on that big prize at the end, but still, this is the halfway point, so still a few races to go, and we can see how quickly this championship will change.
Yeah, certainly. So Harris obviously leading, and Johansson and Meyer further behind than they'll probably want to be. Harris has been the most consistent one, I think, out of the GTLM field, getting those consistent high finishes. That is why he is on top.
Yeah, exactly right. Making sure he's been consistent throughout. Hasn't won every race, but he's always making sure he's right there in contention. And that's the big key to all of these races and all of this championship, is making sure that you're there at the right time to capitalise on others' mistakes and find yourself in the right position come the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just goes to show that that is what's going to bring you success. So now we're going to take a look at the GTD pole lap and go over the standings in that class shortly after. Ferris Stanley for Action Sim Sport, a new pole sitter in this championship. He's managed to pilot this Audi R8 LMS around Silverstone at a fair rate of knots to grab pole for this one. Through into turn one, you can see the main difference here between the GTDs and the GTLMs is the lack of aerodynamic grip at high speed. These cars do still produce a fair level of downforce compared to other forms of racing, but they do depend on that mechanical grip as well. And at a track at Silverstone, with these fast corners, high load going through the tyres a lot of the way through, it can tend to put the car through quite a bit.
It's a really tough circuit, and we were talking before we come on air, there's a lot of corners that you don't realise how long the corners go for, especially turn 3 is going to really catch out drivers, especially in the GTD class, because it feels like a 90-degree corner when you're coming up to it, but you've just got to keep turning and keep turning and keep turning, so it will catch drivers out throughout. But I love how quick these cars are through this section here.
Yeah, absolutely. The Audi nice and stable through Cops there. This is a great lap from Stanley. Nice and smooth, no mistakes, at least so far from what we can see. And through the Beckett's S's, extremely tidy. I'm very impressed to see that. It's a line you don't often see people taking through that section. It's often a maximum attack sort of section where you're widening the track as much as possible, but Stanley taking some very direct lines there. How's he going to go through Stowe, meanwhile? A little bit slower getting to the apex, but a very good exit nonetheless. So all of that consistency, all of these little perfections add up, and Stanley was again our pole sitter by 5/10. Gabriel Pereira setting a 58.5, but a 58.005 for Ferris Stanley there.
Yeah, really good lap from Stanley, and we go to the championship standings in the GTD class. Currently sitting in 3rd is Ferris Stanley, but Brian Lockwood leading the way. Of course, not here this weekend, racing MX5 at Road America this weekend, and our normal co-commentator that jumps in with you, David Haynes, is going to go and watch this weekend as well. So shout out to everyone that is at Road America. Hopefully you're watching and tuning in as well while you're there.
Yeah, certainly, and we hope that you're having fun there at America's Temple of Speed. Lockwood, though, his championship has been pretty much flawless so far. He's won all 3 races on the trot in the GTD class, and once again, it's the consistency and the relentless pace of Lockwood that has ensured that. His rivals, Miller, Stanley in particular, I think stands to profit quite well from this one.
Yeah, exactly right. This is a chance for these guys to get themselves back into the championship hunt and try and get some points back and try and say, hey, we're contenders as well. So the fight between Miller, Stanley, those guys, it'll be quite good to watch and see how they go as we get very, very close to racing getting underway. But we'll go to the Gentlemen's Championship as well, which is for the cleanest driver out on track, and Andrew Taylor leads away from John Miller. These guys are all very, very clean and consistent, but some of them haven't quite had as much luck as others throughout this series as well.
No, certainly not. There's been, of course, the opening lap dramas that you see in so many series, and it's happened in this one as well. No avoiding that, but unfortunately, it has made things difficult for drivers who want to go for this Gentleman's Championship. Of course, it's counted off incident points gathered, and Andrew Taylor right on top of it there. And Miller, you can see running second in the GTD standings and in the Gentleman's standings. Not only is he quick, he's also very clean.
Yep, and that's going to be the key to that championship. We just see Graham Quinn coming in and doing a bit of pit entry practice. It's something we've talked about, and surprisingly, after the last time we talked about it again as we had AOSC at this circuit that night, and pit entry was a big key and cost a few drivers some time, and quite a few drivers got speeding and pit lane penalties. So the pit entrance here, very, very difficult. The cones you can see right there, they come up in a really, really interesting spot because you're full throttle right up to that point, and a lot of drivers will overrun that, and that will mean that we're going to see a lot of speeding and pit lane penalties when it comes time for these pit stops to happen.
Absolutely, the drivers will have to be right on it. Well, here is the starting grid for the Geodesic GoPro Championship. Robert Harris and Tyson Meyer on the first row. Enzo Johansson and Jonathan Broll make it row 2. Quinn, of course, race engineer in real life, has worked with Scott Speed and Rallycross. He starts from 5th place with Andrew Caron alongside him, and the top 8 rounded out by Marcus Deck and Trevor Clement.
Then the final 2 rows of the GTLM class will be William Whalen and Simon Avatal, with Jason Withrow and Justin Rem rounding out the 12 cars in GTLM. And our GTD field has 13 drivers with Ferris Stanley and Gabriel Pereira on the front row. Second row in that class will be Jordan Fisher and John Miller the third.
Zach Plummer and Jesper Drilica start in 17th and 18th overall. The next row taken up by Jack Anderek and Andrew Fawcett. Cameron and Browning follow them. Taylor and Hayden Gober rounding out our field, and Alex Coffard as well on the final row. Solitary. Well, it's the last couple of minutes of this session, waiting for the clock to tick down, and then we'll be able to get going around this place. An awesome circuit, Silverstone. And there's been some debate over which of these layouts has been the better ones over the years, but for my money, I reckon this layout is right up there with the best the track has ever had.
Yeah, exactly right. As we were saying as well before we went live, that we've lost one of the more fun corners around the circuit, but we've gained 3 really good ones in the change of the circuit design, and it's a really, really tough circuit now. Making sure you nail turn 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is really, really difficult. There's so many different lines. I don't think anyone's really worked out the proper line through that section yet. So we're going to see a lot of drivers experiment a lot. We're going to see a lot of passing through turns 2 and 3 because the car does want to get a little bit loose through the heavy load through turn 2. So through the switchback and then the heavy braking for the really, really tough turn 3 and 4. It's going to be a really, really action zone in the circuit. Looking forward to seeing how many drivers come close and whether we'll see huge incidents there or whether it will be fairly clean through that section.
Yes, indeed. It's definitely an opening sequence of turns that you don't usually see on circuits nowadays. Most new racetracks start with a slow turn, but Silverstone being Silverstone, it's got to be fast. And the average speed in Formula One has actually increased with the new layout. So it's one of the fastest circuits in the world.
Yeah, it's a really, really quick track. We've lost, when we were saying about losing corners, we've lost 2 of the slower corners on the circuit. We have gained 1 slower corner, but the rest of the new corners are really, really quick. Obviously, 3 and 4 fairly slow, but 1, 2, and 5 are incredibly quick. Turn 2, the amount of load through the car as you come back and switch back to the left-hand side is incredible. So making sure you get yourself through that is rather difficult as we're about to get the cars up on the grid and ready to get this race underway for 90 minutes of racing.
Yes, indeed, 90 minutes. So Robert Harris, from his perspective at the front for the GTLMs, their tanks last round about an hour, maybe a bit less. So they need to be careful about their fuel usage. And the GTDs, they last a bit over an hour. So an hour and 10 to an hour and 15 is about as far as you can go on a stint in those cars. So a little bit of jigging of strategy required, and I think the high-speed nature of this track may, plus the pit lane, the nature of the pit lane, is going to make for some interesting shifting of positions.
Well, it's a very slow pit lane as well, so making sure you time your pit lane transit right. And of course, traffic as well is the other factor. You don't want to come out with traffic. If you come out and you're mixed in a battle with the slower class car, being if you're in the GTLM class, that is, you don't want to come out behind 2 GTDs that are fighting for position. So when we get to the point of cars being lapped is about when the pit stop cycles start. So it's going to make it really interesting to see how that all progresses. Who's going to fight fairly, who's going to be a little bit more aggressive, making sure you time your moves right. It's going to be a key to this race, as well as making sure you do your pit stops perfect.
Yeah, exactly right. And the fast nature of this circuit means that if you do make a mistake, then it is amplified tenfold, and you may very well end up in the runoff, possibly the wall. So that's one of the dangers you've got to contend with here. Beautiful field of cars, a little bit smaller than in past rounds, again, because of real-life commitments from a few of our league members. But still, a fantastic turnout for round 4 of the Geodesic GoPro Championship at Silverstone. starting on the hangar straight and rolling off to the start-finish line. It's a quick start to this one. They don't have to do an entire formation lap, so Harris has to get on it right away. And when he goes, Tyson Meyer has to be right on it as well. They may form up just out of the last turn. Meyer goes just a bit before the apex of club. So Harris getting a good start. Meyer actually staying with him, going almost too wide. Oh no, Graham Quinn's been turned around there in the background by Andrew Caron coming into turn one. And oh, Caron's made contact, and once again with another car. That's Trevor Clement in the Ferrari. So Andrew Caron, unfortunately, getting off to a very bad start in this one, and Clement and Quinn, my goodness, this couldn't have got off to a worse start for them as the GTD field takes the start. And our pole sitter, Ferris Stanley, he's managed to stay in front, but the other Action Sim Sport Audi in quite a bit of a kerfuffle, Jay. Thanks to building optimization systems for the replays in this series, we're having a look at what happened on the start.
Yeah, and Caron just probably didn't quite realise they were 3 wide there, and went a little bit too deep, made contact, and then you see there he and Clement make contact through the second part. The good news for the GTD field is they have got away cleanly, but at the front of the field it is on between Johansson and Broll for the top 3 right now.
Yes, indeed, top 3 in GTLM, and wow, have a look at how aggressive on entry Broll is. He's got that BMW set up very nicely to work on the front end, which is what you need around a place like this. These high load, very fast turns, you need an accurate car. So Johansson, I think, just taking it a bit easy here at the start. It is only lap 1. They've managed to find themselves little gaps to start battling already, though.
Yeah, Harris and Meyer already separated by a fairly decent margin of 0.6 of a second. This is the closest fight on track, and Johansson and Broll just staying rather nose to tail. This is a good chance to save some fuel as well, save your tyres for that later stint. Of course, more than likely will be no tyre changes in this race, so we're actually seeing Andrew Caron in the pits already.
Yes, indeed. A drive-through penalty for Andrew Caron. Race control deeming him at fault for that opening lap incident.
Can't say I'm too surprised about that.
Yeah, I think that was one of the only decisions that could be made, honestly. But it's only the start of this one, and Caron has plenty of time to make up those positions back. Meanwhile, Jordan Fisher and John Miller fighting hard. Oh no. Okay, that's a problem there for David Browning.
That's a tech issue for him by the looks of it. He's just stopped in a strange spot, and the
Keeps
car
spinning the wheels.
Yeah.
So what happened to David Browning? This is coming into Cops. No, sorry, turn 1. So he runs a little wide. And yeah, just looks to me like his hardware...
Brakes locked on or something?
Yeah, looks like it. Just goes to 100% brake and he can't undo it.
It's just unusual spot to slow the car down. So yeah, I think it's a hardware failure. Brakes... There we go. Starts to turn, brakes come on. Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah, completely locks up and then the brakes don't really come off. So, not quite sure what's going on there, but nonetheless... Whoa! Goodness me. John Miller, either he had an incredible entry or the guy in front of him had Fisher had an awful one. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but this is a really nice train of GTDs forming now. We've got Zach Plummer, Ferris Stanley's teammate, just behind these guys, and Drlicka and Anderek right on the back of them as well. So this should get a bit spicy in the next few corners. Oh,
definitely should. Look at Zach Plummer trying to make moves already, so had a little bit of a run. I think all of these guys, of course, running different cars, the Mercedes and the Audi, they all have slightly different braking points. They all behave slightly differently, so a good mix in amongst this here with a couple of Audis, a couple of Mercedes. So actually there's only one Audi, the rest are Mercedes, but what it means is these guys are all doing different things. And here comes Miller having another look, not quite close enough.
Yeah, I think part of that is... Whoa! Hang on a minute. That's quite the dive there. And Fisher saw him coming. Meanwhile, Dralica off in the background. He just had a slight off. Anderek had to take a bit of evasive action there, but my goodness, that was a very assertive move from John Miller, and Fisher wasting no time trying to get him back for it.
What this is doing, it's meaning that the front two are starting to pull away. They've already pulled 4 seconds on this group, so Ferris Stanley and Gabriel Pereira have already driven off up the road, you can see, and here comes Miller, Fisher, Plummet, Dralica, and Andrak a little bit further back, and Andrew Fawcett's also closing in on the back of these guys too, is bringing Shane Cameron with him as well. So we're going to have a 7-car train here in this group. We go back to the battle for third in GTLM, because Johansson and Broll still continuing their fight too. So a few battles going on throughout the field in this early stage.
Yeah, for sure, and you can see Broll, he's doing the constant moving around and trying to sight the braking point and the entry into the corners. When you got a car in front of you and you feel like you're just a little bit faster, it can be frustrating because the BMW, a big enough boy as it is, blocks quite a bit of what you can see in front of you if you're behind one. So might be the same with the Porsche as well, considering Marcus Deck and William Whalen very close. The Porsche handling the circuit a little bit differently than the BMW. It's got a naturally aspirated 6-cylinder, this machine, so it likes to rev at the end of the straights.
Yeah, it does. It likes to do things a little bit differently. You're just seeing there Graham Quinn just got through on Simon Avatal as well. So change of position there, and Andrak now trying to put pressure on Dralica, trying to get through. Not quite close enough yet, but very, very close.
Oh, well, that's
mistake.
going to get it done there. And Dralica just demonstrating one of the dangers of the current Silverstone layout. That turn 4, much, much, much tighter than it looks.
It's a very, very difficult corner on the circuit. Turns 3 and 4 really have to slow the car up a lot more than you'd think as we go back to the battle for 3rd and 4th in GTLM. Actually, we're just going to cut back away from that because Marcus Deck and William Whalen look like they're holding each other up a little bit because Jason Withrow and Justin Rem behind, they're about 2 seconds back. They're now closing in, so these guys closing up that battle behind. Deck and Whalen need to stop fighting quite as aggressively as they are because they're letting that back group, or that next group, close back up once again.
It's a classic racing dilemma. Two guys involved in a battle with each other. Both of them believe that they should be the one in front, and they end up just holding each other up at the end of it all. Looks to me like Whalen, he's not being super aggressive on Deck, but he's keeping the car just a few car lengths back, and that would be enough to unsettle the driver in front of you.
Well, 1, unsettle,
Whoa.
and 2, be able to save fuel as well. So if you want to make your pit stop as short as possible, save every single drop of fuel you can throughout this stage of the race and make your pit stop shorter. And as we've said so many times, it's easier to pass another car in the pits than it is out on the track. So these guys are been proving that throughout this series so far. And Withrow now is right on the tail of these guys in the draft. He's going to close up down the Wellington Straight here as Whalen's got a little bit of a run.
Yeah, he certainly has, but not quite enough of a run to try and make a move. Definitely making the conscious decision to hang back, stay behind a bit. And of course, another demonstration of the multiple lines you can take around this layout of Silverstone. They both ended up pretty even out of the corner, but you saw the way they took it was extremely different.
Definitely was. It was, as we said in the hot laps at the start, the double apex through there as well. And that first apex, everyone takes differently, but that second apex, almost everyone is the same. So it's very, very interesting. Just seeing another incident, something mustn't be very, very comfortable in Dralica's car because that's the 4th time we've seen him off the circuit already. We're only on lap 5.
Yeah, that's a shame, and that's happened down at Brooklands. Looks to me like he That's a very odd incident.
Just on the grass as he's gone to brake.
Not even.
Oh, no, he's past that, wasn't he?
Yeah, it looks like just brakes maybe a bit too far to the rear.
We're hearing as well that was a brake failure for David Browning, as we suspected.
Mm-hmm.
We
That's a
were
real
getting
shame.
told it was something else, but David's confirmed that with us, that it was a brake failure, so... Shows we actually might know what we're talking about.
Wouldn't it? No.
No,
sorry.
David Browning, who had his
David Browning.
spin.
I got David Browning and Andrew Taylor mixed up. I'm so sorry, guys. It is the morning for us.
It is.
So
it is
we
very
have
early
an
for you too.
excuse.
So William Whalen, have a look at the pressure he's applying here to Marcus Deck now. I think he's decided he doesn't want to hang back. And have a look here, a move happening. Johansson and Broll side by side down the Wellington Straight. This could be a move.
Almost. Brooklyn's in its current form. You can get one up the inside, but Johansson able to come back for the inside of Luffield and maintain the position. So Broll's going to have to stick his nose in a little bit further if he wants to make this move.
It's a scary proposition too, with how big these cars are. You stick your nose in, it's a quite wide car. Makes it very, very difficult. And sometimes you've got to rely on the driver you're racing against and just trust a little bit more than you'd like. There's another side-by-side here. This is for 4th and 5th.
Oh,
GTD.
Yeah, Fisher and Plummer. Goodness me.
Good
And
run from Plummer.
Wow, have a look at that. See, the Audi is really good through those slow, those smooth long turns. I actually drove it in the Spa 24 this past weekend, and it's got a real affinity for these corners. It's a bit unstable under brakes by its very nature, but it loves those long turns. It's fantastic to see that I wasn't alone in my assessment of that.
At the front of the field, Harrison Meyer maintaining their gap. It's around about 7/10 of a second. Johansson and Broll maintaining their half-second gap. Deck and Whalen very, very close. There's a little bit of rubbing between them there.
Oh, goodness me. Wouldn't be a move at turn 1, surely. Oh, maybe it is an overtaking spot after all. Side by side, then through Abbey Farm and up to the complex. Deck much later on the brakes. You can see that turn again. He's using it to his advantage. Little bit more pushing through those hairpins.
This is a great fight going on, but have a look at how close Jason Withrow's closed in. Last lap by about the same lap time, but the lap previous he was a full half-second quicker. Big lunge here from Whalen.
And he is passed for a brief moment, but Deck gets back on the throttle and is able to hold the inside once again. But can he get on the throttle quick enough? I mean, Whalen has been able to get on the throttle a bit earlier, maintain that momentum. Now Withrow's right in this.
This is a great fight going on. And you just see there, Whalen got out of the throttle there, didn't want to throw it up the inside into the old turn 1 section. And through now into the most entertaining, enjoyable section on this circuit. Love this part.
Yeah, and Marcus Deck has the best view of all of these guys of this section, so he's got a little bit more front grip at his disposal. Good exit onto the hangar straight as well. Looks like Withrow is much closer to Whalen than Whalen is to Deck at the moment. Until you get to the braking zone, that is, you can see how much more aggressive Whalen is. He's really leaning on those fronts on entry.
That could just be understanding the fuel situation a little bit more between these guys as well. So Withrow may have realised, hey, I'm not going to get a pass done. I might as well get out of it early and save an extra little bit of fuel. Every little drop is going to count come the latter stages of this race. We're not far off the pit window opening for the GTD cars. We're of course not going to see them in until around about the 45-minute mark. But at around the 45-minute mark, we'll see most of the guys in GTLM come in. That's when the race will get very, very spicy.
Yeah, certainly will. And these guys, I reckon, it'll be a case of who exactly blinks first. Because when you're in a battle with a bunch of other cars, you almost want to be the first one to get into the pits because you'll be able to get an undercut on your rivals. You'll be able to have some laps in clean air, but at the same time, you don't want to pit too early. You want to time it just right. It's very much a gamesmanship.
Yeah, exactly right. You don't want to be the first to jump in some aspects, but you also don't want to miss the boat too. So it's a really interesting proposition. One thing we did see, as I said earlier, that the last broadcast race we had here, the overcut actually worked quite well here, surprisingly. So because it's such a low grip circuit, the overcut actually can work in your favour. So timing your run right and making sure that you pit at the right time is very, very key. As drivers now come up to end another lap in the next couple of moments. Down the hanger straight they go. The battles in GTD have all settled down. And have a look at Graham Quinn. He's actually one of the fastest cars out on track. There's only 2 drivers out on track faster than Graham Quinn at the moment. They're at the front of the field. Quinn is absolutely flying right now.
Yeah, well, you know, Quinn's pace in practice was pretty good. He managed to top the timesheets on a 55.495. So he's definitely got pace in this thing, and he's got what it takes to fight at the front. Unfortunately, that incident with Andrew Caron at the start has put him on the back foot, but he's wasting no time making sure he gets as far up as he can before the pits.
Yep, exactly right. And we'll probably see Quinn, I reckon he'll make a move at the end of the Wellington Straight here because it looks like that car is set up very, very well. Ooh, interesting talking about the balance of performance in these cars too. Have a look at our front three. We've got Porsche, Ferrari, BMW, 1, 2, 3 at the moment. So you can't really say that there's no balance of performance issues, or you can say that there's no issues because it's very, very close between all three. But Quinn not quite close enough to get a move done yet. Wouldn't be too long before he's going to put this move on Justin Rem, though, you would think, just based on the pace he's got at the moment.
Yeah, and I think looking at the behaviour of Quinn's car, you can definitely tell that he's a race engineer by trade, because that car just seems to squat perfectly on the exits. It's nice and stable under brakes. He'll have used a lot of his expertise to set up that car. Of course, he knows the maths behind it. A lot of us sim racers, we tune cars by feel, but Graham Quinn, I would presume, is not of that type.
I mean, if you understand how to read all the data and the telemetry, which you can get so much information out of iRacing in that aspect, if you know how to read it, you might as well use it. So I'd love to have the knowledge and understanding to be able to read all of that data. It just looks like squiggly lines to me, though.
Well, there we go. There's a move. And Justin Rem conceding that position to Graham Quinn. Good move indeed.
It's a nice and simple move. It's probably took a little bit longer than he would have liked, but that now means that he's going to close in on the back of Justin Withrow in the next couple of corners. As William Whalen and Marcus Deck continue their battle. In front of the field, the gap is closed. Harris to Meyer now under half a second, or was for a moment under half a second. Last lap by Tyson Meyer, a 156.3, a 156.5 for Robert Harris. So these guys are very, very close, very even on pace, but just a slight advantage back to Tyson Meyer on that last lap by.
Yeah, and Harris, I noticed there's a slight bit of damage to cosmetic damage to his left front, so he might have hit a curb wrong at some point.
Through the final couple of corners there, those curbs are quite aggressive, so they're very, very possible that that has happened. As we're going to go back to this battle for 5th and 6th because it is closing in again. And Whalen was almost side by side again, but now got the momentum again. I must say I really love the run onto the old front straight now, because remember those bollards used to be there on the old circuit. Those guys can be so more aggressive through that little kink across the old finish line and cut all of that now. It's much, much more enjoyable to drive than what the old circuit was through that section. As just seeing Jesper Dralica in the pits, he's having some more issues. That car looks heavily damaged.
He's been having a lot of issues so far, has Dralica, so makes sense that he's in the pits, possibly get a bit of damage repaired, get himself an extra tank.
Drove down the wrong pit lane, I'm just noticing.
Oh no.
He's brought it into the pits, but went down the old pit lane instead of the new one.
Oh dear. Well, that's one of the dangers, obviously, of racing on a new layout to the sim. You got to recalibrate your surroundings a little bit. Meanwhile, Waylon and Deck. Waylon is so much faster than Deck through this section. He's really good through the fast turns, but then Deck just gets him on exit every time.
It looks like that they've got the cars set up completely opposite to each other. Waylon's got it set up to get it done in different areas, and just see how well Deck got out of the corner there, out of turn 4 and through the kink at turn 5. Down the Wellington Straight coming up to Brooklands. And we also said that Harris and Meyer were getting closer. Last lap by, a 156.56 for Harris, a 156.56 for Meyer. So they are very, very close on pace at the moment. The gap between them is 1 second out on the circuit. So a little mistake from Meyer on this lap. You can't get much closer in lap time as the last time by.
No, certainly not. And I've been looking forward to seeing this battle re-eventuate, because I remember at Road America, the opening round, Harris and Meyer were very close once again, and Meyer at Road America was just fantastic to watch. So I reckon if they can come together and have a fight, it'll be very good for the entertainment value.
Definitely will. And talking about entertainment, Graham Quinn, we're going to watch him work his way all the way through this field here. You'd expect him to be past all of these guys by the time the pit stop comes. Get himself up into 5th position just based on his pace in practice and qualifying. Now he's right in under the rear wing, Jason Withrow. When he'll get past, we're not sure, but it's going to be very, very soon based on the pace. Have a look at how good he looks under brakes there into the final section of corners.
No complaints from the car at all. No sliding of the rear, no locking of the rears. It's just pointed at the apex of the corner and it goes. Beautiful car control and setup work there from Graham Quinn. But I reckon this isn't going to be as easy as we thought it was. Because yes, he's very aggressive into the corners.
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh no! Oh dear, that is a shame. Big shame.
And he just went for the lunge, and I don't think Withrow saw him there at all.
No, because the thing is, when you go and turn in for that left-hander, you're completely unsighted. You can't see the apex. So he went to take his normal line, and Quinn went for the move, and obviously not working out. That's a big shame, though, because that's just another setback there for both of those drivers.
Yep, definitely is. And Withrow is now under pressure from Justin Rem as well, and you can just see there contact, and around goes Graham Quinn. So he's dropped back to 10th position and now has a fair bit of work to do to close back up again. So now we can see Justin Rem right behind Withrow, and there's a bit of damage to the car from that too. Withrow will be feeling a little bit of damage, feeling a little bit hurt from that incident, as Robert Harris, last lap by, just did his fastest lap of the race, a 156.3, and Graham Quinn has actually decided to bring it into the pit, so he's too heavily damaged, and that's day done.
Well, not to mention, he's also instantly been given a penalty by race control for that incident, so very, very swift consequences for that move, unfortunately.
Disappointing way for his race to end, but no doubt he'll be back next round, 2 weeks' time, getting back out on track. And race to forget for a few drivers early on, but just means that it's a chance for other drivers to capitalise on these sort of issues, as we're on board here with Justin Brem. Not quite close enough to Withrow at the moment, but he's closing in. Last lap by was around about 1.5 seconds quicker. Of course, Withrow had that incident, but Rem thought he might have been able to get a move done, but at the moment, just not quite there yet.
Yeah, Withrow, to his credit, has been very good getting back onto rhythm post incident. So I don't think he's in too much trouble in the grand scheme of things, but we'll have to keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, Marcus Deck and William Whalen, these guys have not left each other alone since the start. And I think now Waylon is definitely in fuel-saving mode because he's already had a few half chances at deck and he has not been able to get it done. Jordan Fisher and Zach Plummer, meanwhile, they're going right at it. And let's see if an over-under can be achieved here by Plummer. Yes, it can. Very well executed. Oh, a little bit of contact on the exit. That wasn't quite needed, but nonetheless, good bit of racing for those couple of corners.
It's not done here. I don't think Jordan Fisher's too happy with how that played out in the end, and big old flash of the headlights as he's now behind. There was a little bit of contact there coming on to the Wellington Straight, and now Zach Plummer has cleared a little bit of a gap out to a couple of tenths of a second, so it'll just give him a bit of breathing room, but that Mercedes will come back. You've got no doubt about that. It's definitely a very, very consistent car is the Mercedes, and the Audi, not the easiest car to drive. It's a very, very quick car, but if you're not 100% confident with it, it is a scary beast, that Audi.
Oh yeah, certainly is, and I drove it for many hours this past weekend, so I know all about that. The car, it doesn't like trail braking. You can't hold the brakes into a corner and ease off. You have to brake in a straight line. You have to roll the car through the corner, and it likes smooth and early throttle application. It's pretty much the only way for the rear end of the Audi to be kept in check, but for those same reasons, it's really good around tracks like this.
And it's already started to pull a little bit of a gap now, has Zach Plummer, since he made that move through. So Robert Harris now has pulled a 2-second gap, so that's sort of come from nowhere. We said that Meyer was closing in, and all of a sudden Harris has come back and responded. So these guys now separated by around the 2-second mark. It'll be interesting to see if Tyson Meyer can respond back and close that gap back down. So Johansson and Broll, they've separated by around 2 seconds as well. So these guys now a little bit more of a gap, but the rest of the field in GTLM, very, very close. And Deck and Waylon, have a look at the different lines there coming through. It's amazing all the different lines that everyone takes through that section there, through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. A very, very interesting section of track, of course, so different from what it once was, but definitely the most enjoyable section on this circuit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's gone through quite some changes over the years. The curbs are a lot flatter, and there's a bit more nuance to it now than there used to be. You don't have to avoid super big curbs anymore like they did in the early 90s. So certainly an enjoyable section of track to drive through.
Tyson Meyer has responded. Gap was 2 seconds when we last looked at it. It is now a second. So last lap by Tyson Meyer, 57.1, a 57.4 for Harris. And in the first 2 corners of this track, or 3 corners of this track, on this lap, Tyson Meyer has closed in around about half a second again. So Harris and Meyer is not done, even though it did stretch out to 2 seconds. It's back down to 1. This is going to ebb and flow throughout this race. We're almost at the half-hour point as well.
Yes, indeed. So a third of the way through this one. And then the drivers will start thinking about their pit window. And Meyer needs to, I think, start thinking about that, because he's, yes, the gap is ebb and flowing, but Harris seems to be able to respond well whenever he is attacked. So I think Meyer's best bet here to get a move to... Oh no, Harris has got to slow down, Jay. He got to slow down on the exit of the Beckett's S's, and that means Meyer is in the lead now, just as I was saying. Just as I was talking about it, my goodness.
Very easy to do. We've seen this a lot throughout our broadcast races at this circuit. We'll just rewind the replay a little bit further and we'll pick up exactly where it's happened. But now Harris has got a lot of work to do to get past Meyer. We know how hard it is to get past Tyson Meyer, and bang, there it was.
Yeah, using too much of the grass there through Maggots. Easy thing to do, but nonetheless, it is still illegal, and iRacing will hit you with a slowdown penalty if you touch that grass. So Tyson Meyer now into the lead. Will he be able to hold on for the win that he craves? We'll have to wait and see.
And what this has also done, it brought Johansson back up a little bit, because I don't think Meyer was expecting that to happen. It almost sounded like he wasn't on 100% throttle coming out of Chapel onto the hangar straight. As he just has a huge slide under brakes there too. Johansson's closed the gap down too. It was about 3.5 seconds he was behind Meyer. It's now down to 2.7. So Johansson is coming at these guys as well. So this definitely isn't over at the front of the field in GTLM. The front of the field in GTD, they're also very, very close on pace too. Stanley, Pereira and Miller, all very, very close in regards to pace. Those gaps are ebbing and flowing as well. So while there's no direct battle at the moment in GTD, they're all closing in very, very close. But this is on for the lead here because Harris wants that lead back.
Yeah, absolutely. And Meyer, of course, wanting to add another win to his roster. Of course, he crossed the line in first place at Road America. And if his next win is to come at another fast circuit, that would certainly be nice for him. Does seem that that Harris, now that he has a car in front of him, he's really ramped up the aggression. I can see a big difference in the body language of the two cars now. Meyer, you can see he's having a couple of goes at a lot of corners in that Ferrari, but Harris in the Porsche, he's going straight in, straight out.
And now the real strategy game comes in. Does Harris think now, all right, I'm quick, but this is my chance to save fuel and I'll undercut at the pit stop or jump in the stop? It's a really interesting proposition, and the strategy changes now for Robert Harris now that he's tucked in under the rear wing of Tyson Meyer. Speaking of tucked under the rear wing, here's Justin Rem looking to get a move done. Not quite close enough, but he's right there now. And Simon Avatal also closing in. Last lap by was 1 second quicker than Withrow. So we're going to have another 3-car battle for positions in GTLM in the next couple of laps. This is getting rather tight. This is a really interesting little fight between all of these cars as Harris is closed in on Meyer again. It's now down to 3/10.
Oh, this is going to be good. And Cops, we saw just then, is sometimes used as an overtaking point, but not quite close enough is Harris at the moment. And I have had a thought about the low grip of this track surface. That must be playing into the ebb and flow of the pace, because it's very hard to find the limit of grip when you've got a low grip surface like this new one.
Harris has got a great exit out of Chapel here and closing in. This is a chance to see whether he's fuel saving. I say no.
Yeah, I say no too. That seems fairly business as usual there for Robert Harris.
Let's see if Justin Rem can get the run.
Whoa! Harris just had a big curb hit, man. That was
and Rem had a big moment at the same time.
Oh, goodness me. So I guess didn't matter what we were focused on. Coinky dink. So let's have a look at what happened here to Justin Rem and Robert Harris.
Harris
look at this,
first.
Jay. It's a fair whack of the sausage curb.
That's a big bounce up over the curb. That won't do the suspension too much love. And have a look at this moment here for Rem, because he was right there on Withrow. Looked like he might have been able to get a move done. And have a look at this huge slide. Right
almost.
There. Almost flipped it around. He's hanging on. That camera angle didn't quite show it as good as the first shot. But a very big slide for him. Come back live. Harris is right there ready to pounce.
Yeah, once again, as they come up the old start-finish straight. He's lost a bit of time, has Harris, in the last half a lap, but again, he just gains it back.
Move done. Withrow now back into 8th position. And that is a pass. Looks like down the Wellington straight there. Justin Rem just got the run.
Yeah, so
Textbook
looks
pass.
like a textbook pass there at Brooklands. It's a very interesting corner, that. Fast entry, but tightens up massively right in the middle. So if you can put a move up the inside and maintain your momentum, then it's a good place to put a move. They're not leaving each other alone, though. Have a look at Avatal through the S's. Certainly feeling confident in the Ethersim Sports Porsche.
It's looking like that car's coming to him. The longer the race goes, the better it's behaving. So he's doing quite a good job at the moment. Is he able to get the move done here? Not quite close enough. Gets out of it early. But starting to apply some pressure. Withrow has already dropped a huge margin to Rem since he's gone through. So Withrow will be feeling a little bit of pressure now from another driver behind. And Trevor Clements also closed up very, very quickly too. Last lap by 58.0. Those three guys ahead all doing 59.6s or higher. So looking very, very quick at the moment is the Alliance Racing driver Clement.
Certainly is. Very impressive pace at this stage in the race. So we've got Avatal on Withrow, and Clement might be coming into these guys' realm pretty soon. So I'm just watching the clock and waiting for the time when someone makes a jump into the pits, because that is going to completely change the face of this race.
Exactly, Will. And have a look again. Harris has come back again. Another big slide for Tyson Meyer. Those rears are really struggling because he's just sliding through the mid-corner so much. And what that's done now, Harris is right there ready to pounce once more.
Could he potentially make a move at the end of the hangar straight? We'll have to see. He's able to maintain a good run. Very nice run coming out of the S's. And the straight is just long enough for a bit of drafting to be done. But it looks like he's not quite close enough. Once again, no early dives there for Robert Harris. But Meyer, you can see he is starting to struggle with the balance of that thing.
Andrew Fawcett in the pits, our first pit stop.
Meyer just had a slide, Jay, sorry.
That's alright. He's doesn't look like that car is set up well for later on in the stint, does it? Just doesn't look right at this stage. Early on it looked like it was in a lot more control, but now it looks like it's ready to go sideways at every possible moment.
Yeah, tyres obviously not having a good time. Have a look here. Good run from Robert Harris through turn 2, and that can translate into a move in this section, but again, he's just not able to get up far enough. Meyer, despite his issues, he's able to maintain a good amount of momentum in that car and keep Harris behind.
Exactly right, and Johansson's actually closing on these guys too while they're having this little battle, so this is I feel it's going to turn into a 3-car battle after the pit stops here between these three. It's a strange line there from Tyson Meyer, and that compromised his run in the run up to Luffield. Harris looks so much stronger through that section there.
Yeah, I think it's all about confidence on how the car is going to rotate, because you can see the rear end going just a little bit on Meyer's car, especially through these fast turns. A little bit of wavering as he goes through the turn, but on the other hand, Harris doesn't look like any complaints happening from his tyres or his car right now.
Looks much more stable, doesn't it? Just not quite enough to get the move done back, but it looks like there's a little bit more grip there at this stage of the race. The track temperature has increased from the start of the race. Not a huge amount, but it definitely has increased. So that will be a little bit of a factor for these drivers. Both of them sliding at the moment. So those Michelins will be struggling a little bit. So we're nearly at the halfway point of this race. We've got around about 27 or so laps of racing left. There's still a good chunk of driving to go.
Yeah, very good chunk of driving to go indeed, and a fair amount of that will be done by Meyer and Harris if this battle keeps going the way it is. Let's see if Harris is aggressive again through here. He lines up the run, but once again, he has to get on the brakes a bit early, otherwise he's going to go straight into the side of Meyer at the apex of the hairpin.
While these guys look like they will not have a change of position at the moment, we have seen a change of position because Simon Avatal has got through on
and
Jason Withrow.
and this would be down the Hanger Straight, so there we go. Fairly textbook move there into Stowe. It's interesting, a lot of the turns on this circuit, yes, they are quick, but at the same time, you can very easily put a move up the inside, as if it were a hairpin.
Yeah, well, it's such a wide circuit, it gives you so many options, doesn't it? So, Harris again, it's closed up once more.
And these guys, I'd love to know what is going on in their heads right now. What is Harris's modus operandi here? Is he looking to pressure Meyer into a mistake? Is he looking to save fuel? Is he just looking to have a good race?
Just see Trevor Clement just got through on Jason Withrow as well, so another position lost. It's dropped back to 10th position. So back at the front of the field, they're actually about to come up to traffic as well, so this could change how this little battle unfolds. Andrew Fawcett, who we saw out of the pits, already been lapped. Shane Cameron just ahead, the last runner on the lead lap overall. Not too far ahead of these guys.
Yeah, they'll come up on him fairly quickly, especially in this opening section. The GTD's much slower through those faster turns. You can see already the gap just starting to decrease between these guys, and the GTDs can get on the brakes much, much later and carry a lot more speed into the turns. They're right up on Cameron now. He'll be getting the blue flags, but he's not moving over just yet. He's going to wait until this section of the circuit to let the leaders go. And Meyer just off into the grass slightly. He wouldn't be too happy with that. It was a little more awkward than he would have liked, but still, he's maintained the lead.
He has, but what this has done, it's meant Johansson's actually closed up around about half a second just from that little section of a lap car. So now it's under 2 seconds for Johansson to Harris, and that could close even further. Harris looking as close as he's been in a long time. It's getting very, very interesting here at the front of the field. Harris so much later on the brakes too. Harris looking really strong, just can't quite get through.
Yeah, he's trying really hard. You can see now he's getting that momentum. He's getting the slipstream down the straights. And have a look, he's using so much more curb as well. Man, if he hadn't gotten that slowdown, I think we'd be looking at a very different race right now.
100%. I think he would have driven away at the front just based on the car behaviour. In saying that, Tyson Meyer may have tackled this stint a little bit differently if he didn't have it. Now starting to defend the position is Tyson Meyer. So this is getting quite interesting between these guys. 22 laps complete in this race when they cross the line. Around about 25 odd laps to go as we're almost at the halfway point. This is getting very, very interesting.
I reckon what you said earlier with the overcut, that might be a potential goal of Meyer, just to get the car going as long as possible. Try and run Harris dry, so to speak, so he has to pit.
You'll force Harris into a mistake trying to make a move. Could even be what he's trying to do there. Just try and hold him up enough to force him to second guess himself. But have a look at how close Johansson is now. He's right there, 1.4 seconds back from Harris. He'll nearly be back in draft range if these guys continue to slow up as much as they are. Last lap by 6/10 slower than Johansson, both Meyer and Harris. So Johansson definitely quicker at the moment. And Broll in the background too, also quicker. So these guys are really starting to slow each other up. And have a look at those different lines again.
Yeah. See, yeah, there's two main lines you can take through that section. There was Meyer's line, which is more like a traditional racing line, and then you got Harris's, which really narrows the exit to the entry to Luffield, but you maintain, I guess, a lot of momentum, and you're using the tyres more doing that.
Harris looks like he's not working the tyres as much as Meyer is too, so for the most part, Harris may have a little bit more grip left at the end, but never know how that all plays out as well, because the wear on these cars is very, very different. And how the tyres behave at the end of the race could be very, very different as well. Of course, track temp will play a feature as well, as it's gone up yet another degree. So track continuing to warm. Be interesting to see what temperature it's at the end, as the sun continues to shine here at Silverstone. We're about to cross the line, and that will be halfway through this race as well. 23 laps done, on to lap 24. So it'll mean that we're going to do around about 46 laps of racing by the time they do a pit stop. But it definitely isn't over at the front. There's really 3 cars in it now.
Yeah, certainly. It's good to see that that we've got this many cars in contention for the win right now. This series has proven to be incredibly competitive. You know, coming into this, for me as the commentator, it was a little bit of an unknown. You know, a lot of drivers that I was unfamiliar with or that I'd seen before in streams, and an entirely new series and new time zone as well. But this has really turned it on, and I'm really enjoying myself talking over this action.
Well, it surprised us and intrigued us how competitive this series is, isn't it? It's been such an enjoyable series so far. Sad that we're already halfway through. It's been such a good, enjoyable series so far, and the racing has been so competitive from green flag to checkered. Often races of this length have sections where the race peters off, but these races have always had some intense action the whole way through. And this battle for the lead just shows what we've been talking about the whole way through, because these guys are going at it. And I don't think it's going to stop, because Harris and Meyer are just responding to each other the whole time. And a slowdown for Johansson. All of that hard work, he's just lost it all in one corner.
Oh, goodness me. What a shame. And that's a very brutal slowdown. It comes right before the most significant straight on the circuit. So, if anything, that's going to perk up Jonathan Brol's ears again.
Definitely would. And one thing I actually thought might have worked there is Johansson could have jumped into the pits, taken the opportunity, stayed at full speed a little bit, and then used the slowdown in the pits. I'm surprised he didn't do something like that and go, well, I might as well, you know, slow down there, lose less ground at that point than anywhere else. But he decided to stay out. In the pits, though, is Andrak to come in to make his scheduled stop. Full tank of fuel, the halfway point, to fill the car pretty much back up to full. Back out they go. No tyres more than likely for everyone. Harris continuing to apply pressure. Last lap by identical lap times again. These guys are just giving each other nothing at the moment, are they?
No, certainly. And you can see they both used a line that was between their extremes in Luffield there. So I think they both settled into something of a rhythm once again, these guys. And what you say about tyres, yeah, the tyres on these cars will last an entire race, but they will be very squirrely at the end. So I'm interested to see, particularly in Meyer's case, how the car behaves right at the end.
Yeah, those last 5 laps could be really, really tough for some of these guys, with that track temp rising as it is. Another great exit there for Harris onto the hanger straight. Not going to be close enough, but the speed looks really good. He's just looking at the top speed down the straight, 260.2 for Harris, 259.4 for Tyson Meyer, who's in the pits.
Let's see how he nails the entry. Looks like he managed to get it.
Such a tough entry, this one.
Wow, you're right. Goodness me. That's a very slow pit lane. My goodness. So there we go. That's the comparison there. Cars out on the track to the left and Meyer trundling down the lane to the right. So now we need to think about pit stop time spent stationary, because if Meyer can minimize that as much as possible, it'll give him a slight edge over Harris.
Still stopped at the moment too. one other thing that could actually give him a little bit of trouble is where he comes out. If he comes out in the middle of this little battle pack here between Justin Rem, Simon Avatal and Trevor Clement, which he probably will, traffic could be a big factor here in how this plays out.
Oh dear. Well,
I think this was a badly timed pit stop, 16 seconds, but I think it's come at the wrong spot in the track because he probably wanted to have a little bit more ground and come out ahead of these guys. This could change how this race plays out. Will Harris stay out? I'm going to say yes and go for an overcut because Tyson Meyer might have trouble getting past these cars.
yeah. Well, I think the overcut, considering those circumstances, that is the best thing Harris can do right now. Stay out there in the clean air. Make sure that he gets the lap times down. Drive to those numbers and secure a little bit of extra time over Meyer in the end game, I suppose you could say. Well, Meyer still has to get up to speed. The tyres will have cooled down a little bit in the pits as we see John Miller jumping in as well from third in GTD.
Withrow's come in and grabbed some tyres, so obviously he lost a few spots, decided that he might get some new boots and go again. Fairly long stop for him. 42-second stop, and Tyson Meyer 16-second stop. So there are numbers to keep an eye on. No surprise that Harris continues on for another lap, as does Johansson and Broll. But now Tyson Meyer, he's got a really tough job to get past these guys and not lose too much ground to the leaders ahead.
Yeah, certainly. The truth will come when we start seeing representative lap times registered behind 3 cars. One of them a GTD. No, actually, is that a GTD at the front of that?
No, they're all for position here. So we've got Rem, Avatar, Clement, and Meyer all ahead.
That's my tired morning eyes playing tricks on me again. Justin Rem's Porsche resembled for a second John Miller's Mercedes. I'm not sure how.
Lack of caffeine, probably the reason.
Yeah, I might have to get myself another coffee. I've already had one.
I've had a couple more than one. I won't say how many, but now this is where Meyer's going to really struggle. So he's outlap a 2-minute 36. So we need to keep an eye on that when Harris and Johansson come in. But you notice that he's not gaining ground on these guys ahead. Last lap by Rem and Avatal did 1 minute 58s. Robert Harris 1:57.5. So already you could say he's lost half a second to Robert Harris from that early pit stop.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty crazy there. That's certainly not the event that Meyer was looking to make out of this, certainly. Well, Harris, he's still not wasting any time out on track. He's staying out, as well as most of our top guys in GTLM. Jordan Fisher, meanwhile, decides to go for the pits.
But an issue for William Whalen.
Oh dear. Let's see what happened here. So that's coming through cops.
Wondering if it's a tech issue potentially.
Oh, nope. Problems with traffic. Oh, big problem with traffic. My goodness, that was a big hit.
Is that Andrew Taylor, the other car? I think Whalen's decided that he might be day done. Andrew Taylor.
Shame.
It's disappointing for him.
Yeah, big shame there for Andrew Taylor. It looked like he was just minding his own business through that section, and Whalen maybe misjudging the closing speed.
Oh, it was the second hit there that was the worst.
Ouch.
Because as he hit the wall, Whalen was tucked right in behind him and just made secondary contact. So, unfortunate there for car of Andrew Taylor, who's made it back to pit lane. So Tyson Meyer now trying to get a move done on Trevor Clement.
Whoop.
First flying lap for Meyer, 1/10 quicker than Robert Harris. Through he goes.
Right. Well, looks like Meyer definitely has the pace to match Harris. We'll see how well that translates after the pit stop, I guess.
So will Harris now come in seeing that first flying lap time for Tyson Meyer? Of course, he now has traffic, which quickly gets out of the way. I believe that was Zach Plummer coming in, and it was. Surprised that we've seen more of the GTDs in the pits than the GTLM.
Yeah, I would have expected the GTDs to go longer.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too, considering they've got the longer tank, or the more opportunity to go longer in that tank. So it's a little surprising. Justin Rem holding off Simon Avatal at the moment. It's an interesting little fight here between these two.
Yeah, absolutely is. These two Porsches, they've been in and around each other for quite some time, and I guess that was almost a move, but I guess abandoned.
Well, I guess that was how it's played out. Is it just seeing there, Andrax lost the spot to John Miller, and now Jordan Fisher closing in. These guys have all come into the pits, all very, very different pit stop lengths. Of course, we said that Miller has had a long stop. He probably took tyres in that stop. Andrak, very short stop, so it's double stinting tyres. And Jordan Fisher's pit stop time somewhere in the middle. So not too sure what he's up to.
Righto. Numbers.
And Myers lost half a second to Harris on that last lap.
Okay. So once again, it's continuing the trend of those guys responding to each other again and again.
And now some traffic again for Tyson Meyer.
This is going to make it worse, much worse. Of course, the GTD getting out of the way very swiftly.
Trying to, anyway.
Yeah.
Not as easy as it could possibly be.
Yeah, the cars are very similar in straight line speed. The GTDs, they have more downforce, a bit more grip through the corners, but the GTLMs are just not able to get a leg up on the GTDs in terms of straight line.
Continuing on, our front three cars. Tyson Meyer now with some draft, a little bit less traffic. See if he can close in that gap, but it's an intriguing little gap. 40 seconds is the official time, first to sixth right at this moment. Will that be recoverable? Something's happened though to our third place car. Rolls around.
Oh, he is too. And that's down at the opening section of the circuit too.
Turn 3 was it?
Yeah, oh my goodness, it started before even turn 2. So have a look at him as he comes through turn 1. The change of direction, a little bit of an over rotation, and getting onto the grass, it just exacerbated that.
And we said before this race started that turn 2 would be one of the toughest corners on the circuit through Farm Curve. With that change of direction, the way that the cars react to that change of direction will catch some drivers out. Hasn't caught as many out as I was expecting, but I think now that the tyres are starting to wear and the track temp continues to rise, it's starting to really, really hurt some drivers.
Yeah, and again, combined with the lower grip, smoother surface, it definitely means the car is on a bit more of a knife edge a lot of the time. Meyer, meanwhile, having his hands full with Simon Avatal.
And he's lost a second to Robert Harris on this lap, or thereabouts. So he needs to get past here and start to pull away, because he's really struggling to maintain that position and losing a lot of ground and losing ground quickly. So he needs to work his way through, go from there.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about patience. He's still got time. He's still got a third of the race left to get as close to Harris as he possibly can, but I don't know what his fortunes are looking at right now. Meanwhile, this should be a very assured move down into Stowe. And will Avatal take the opportunity to go for the pits? No, he won't. Does look like Meyer overcooked it a little bit there into Stowe. Was a poorer exit than I've seen.
Yeah, he didn't quite nail that, did he? And just saw there Jonathan Broll coming into the pits after his little spin. Well, it was a bit more than a little spin, wasn't it? It was a fairly decent spin. So Tyson Meyer now back up into 4th position. 3 cars ahead, yet to pit. Avatar and Clement also yet to pit. Jonathan Broll coming out of the pits. And will be rejoining in 7th position, but net 4th position, we believe.
Yeah, right alongside one of the Action SimSport GTDs. So this could get slightly awkward. Zach Plummer, obviously, using the track as he has his right to. But for Jonathan Broll, it'll be very frustrating because this outlap has not gotten off to a good start. Oh, take it easy, man.
Yeah, this is not what Broll would have wanted coming out of the pits. And interesting, Zach Plummer is the lead car in GTD that has made his pit stop. So he's one to watch over the next phase of this race. Only a 19-second pit stop for him, so fuel only. We go back to Simon Avatar. Here we go. Here we go.
All right. So this is going to be the pit stop that that effectively decides where the battle for the win is going to go. It's such a frustrating ride through that pit lane. It is so slow.
It's amazing how slow it is. It's, what, 35 miles at 56 kilometers an hour? Very slow.
Yeah. Most pit speed limits are at least 60 k's. All right, he's come to a stop as Harris and Meyer just coming past pit entry now. There goes Abital into the pits, and following him in, Trevor Clement. So everyone's jumping now that Harris has decided to come in.
Only one car left to pit, being Johansson. So there
and
comes,
Harris is away.
Yeah, Harris is away, and just coming across the start line there is Tyson Meyer. This is actually going to be a lot closer than I think we were expecting. Meyer will be within draft range. A half-second longer stop for Harris. Tyson Meyer will rejoin around about where we were hoping he would, just in behind Harris. We were a bit worried that he lost a little bit of ground, but I don't think he's lost anywhere near as much as we thought.
No, certainly not. And I guess from now, Meyer will be hoping that A, his car is able to continue consistently to the finish, and B, Harris gets another track limits ping.
That will change how this whole race plays out if that does happen. Enzo Johansson now leads the race. You'd expect him in this lap because of the length of time we have run. We are now 62 minutes into this race.
So Johansson certainly going the longest out of anyone here. And there's Ferris Stanley in.
Pereira
the pole sitter. Right, so Pereira going especially long as well. So some strategy variation in GTD as well, even amongst similar car type, because we got to remember these cars don't just differ in terms of chassis configuration and engine. They got different size fuel tanks too.
Yeah, different fuel flow rates, different everything. So balance of performance very, very different in the GTD or GT3 class. But Zach Plummer not able to get past Shane Cameron. Of course, Shane Cameron has not pitted yet. Zach Plummer has. So this is going to be interesting to see as Ferris Stanley already away. So huge gap over Zach Plummer. What's that? 4 or 5 corner advantage as Plummer now through on Stanley. As Johansson is away. And he'll lose a spot to Harris. But he might come out right behind Tyson Meyer here. That's very, very close. Johansson's back in the battle for the lead here.
Yeah, he is. That was a very good stop and very well timed there from Johansson. His stationary time is actually Meyer was the quickest out of the top 3. So either it's been a fantastic run from Enzo Johansson coming up to this pit stop, or some miracle has happened out on track and he's been able to get back up close to these guys.
Well, interesting looking at the times. He was the slowest in regards to pit lane time was Johansson, but pretty identical stop time to Harris. But he's well and truly within the range. He's only a second behind Meyer. It's at 2.3 seconds back from Robert Harris. So very, very close as Pereira now comes in at the front of GTD. So this will be interesting between Pereira and Stanley. Ferris Stanley still a fair way away, just about to come on to the hangar straight. So Pereira, if he can do a really good job in regards to pit stop time, it's going to be very, very tight in that class as well. And also Trevor Clement's come out ahead of Justin Rem and Simon Avatal. So Clement's done a great job saving fuel behind those guys.
Absolutely.
Jumped 2 cars in the stop. Great stop.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's fantastic from Trevor Clement. It's just goes to show, you know, this is still technically an endurance championship despite its sprint-like nature.
Pereira away, and he's got to transit the whole lane, and Ferris Stanley will jump him. So Stanley will retake the race lead, but Pereira is a little bit closer than what he was before.
Yeah, he certainly was. Pit stop times, Ferris Stanley 19.9 and 19.5 for Pereira. Pereira was also half a second quicker on transit time, so a very good stop.
Yeah, good job from Pereira there in the pits. And now 2.8 seconds is the gap between those 2 cars at the front of the GTD field, and they'll also have the leaders in GTLM coming up very, very quickly. We go back to Justin Rem, Simon Avatal, and Trevor Clement. Avatal a little bit checked up behind, I believe that's Anderak that they've just come past. And Clement and Rem very, very tight, close in regards to position at the moment. Robert Harris and Tyson Meyer are also closing in. It is now down to 1.2 seconds. So Tyson Meyer is looking very, very quick at the moment.
Yeah, Harris had a couple of dramas with traffic in the Brooklyn section. Jordan Fisher just minding his own business out there as the leaders go by him.
Well, Harris's outlap was actually 0.4 of a second slower than Tyson Meyer's his outlap. So a huge difference in regards to pace. It's a pretty decent margin separating. Of course, the longer stop, so that will definitely change the length of time for that outlap, but it's enough. It's a bit enough of a difference. Of course, to get the tyres back up to temp is now 1.1 seconds separating these two. Predicting around about 12 to 13 laps remaining. Looks like it'll be 12. This is going to be an interesting fight. Everyone has pitted. This is a sprint home now from here.
That's the way we like it. Absolutely fantastic. Well, Harris, he's keeping it nice and consistent out the front. Meanwhile, Rem and Avatal continuing their fight. This is certainly one of those fights that has been a very consistent burner, I guess you could say. These guys have been within the same area of track pretty much from the start.
Well, Avatal lost
harassing each other the whole time.
Avatal lost all that ground at the start and then closed in, and Clement was a long way back and then closed in on these guys. So it's been a really interesting battle between these 3 cars. Of course, we saw Withrow was in this battle as well as Graham Quinn when he was out there on track as well. So we had a few cars involved in this fight. Now it's resumed again, but they're all roles reversed. Now with Clement being the lead car, he's done a great job. One of the shortest stops out of everyone, Trevor Clement. Only stop quicker was Tyson Meyer. And that will be interesting to see whether Meyer may have short-filled the car a tiny little bit. But what you can see visually is that gap has closed down. It is now 1.2 again. But traffic is now an interesting factor as the second place car in GTD has compromised Enzo Johansson's run, and that's cost him a little bit of ground there. So Pereira has not done anything wrong, but just unfortunate for Johansson where he's caught up to him on track. Through he goes, but he's dropped around about 0.6 of a second, has Johansson. Go back to Avatal because he's right there behind Rem now.
Yeah, certainly is. And talking about these guys, it was very impressive to see the lap time difference. Of course, Clement, the fastest out of all these guys, he did a 58.3 on the last lap, 59.3 from Rem, 58.8 from Avatal. So it doesn't look like Clement is in much trouble from these guys, but Avatar certainly is looking quite aggressive in these later stages. Oh, you can already see there a little bit of, yeah, slight look. Just enough.
Just enough for Rem to realise that he's there and to second guess himself. Johansson's actually lost more ground as well, just looking at the timing. He's now 3 seconds back, so Johansson's had an issue on this lap, because last lap by identical lap times to Harrison Meyer. So Johansson well and truly out of the battle for now, as we've got 20 minutes on the clock. Not long left to go. Jonathan Broll, actually the fastest car out on track last time by. John Miller, the fastest car in GTD, did his second consecutive lap in the 159 bracket. Stanley, Pereira and Plummer ahead all did 202s, but Miller 159.9. So John Miller's on the charge. He's not far behind Zach Plummer for that final podium spot, 5.6 seconds back. But if he keeps doing those laps, you'll be there within three laps, 2 laps, you'll be right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great pace from John Miller at this stage, and very impressive to see. And Johansson making his way past another GTD, Ferris Stanley, the leader of that class. Meanwhile, Andrew Fawcett and Shane Cameron, teammates at Team Huge Ass, having a little bit of a scrap battle here. Yeah. Always enjoy it. And in different cars, too. Ferrari versus Mercedes. We'll be able to see... Ooh, tit for tat, the differences between the cars.
Cameron running very, very wide there, and had a little bit of opposite lock on to try and regain control of the car and force it close that gap down. But yeah, interesting to see teammates racing with different cars. We see it in the GTLM class, but in the GTDs you usually see everyone go for the same car in the same team. Just a little bit surprising to see that teammates running different cars, and tell you what, there's different lines there too.
Yeah, well, it may be a different line there for Cameron, but it's not the optimal one. No. It's completely compromised his exit onto the hangar straight, but it looks like Fawcett's okay to kind of stay behind. I think they're just having fun out there.
Oh, that's the way to do it. Give your team a bit of TV time as well. So I've got a moment back out on the track. The 88 car of Justin Rem around.
Oh no, that's a shame. He was doing well holding off the advances of Simon Avatal just earlier. Let's see what happened to him. Well, the guys were still together on track, but this might be a driver error. Yep. Oh my goodness, that looks so painful.
Happened in slow motion, that, didn't it?
Yeah, that moment when the car goes on the entry to turn 1 and you just know that there's not much you can do to save it. All you can do is steer it as far away from the wall as you can.
Did a good job to make sure it didn't go on the wall, because once you get on that tarmac runoff, sometimes it will actually cause the car to grip up a bit more and then slide while it's going sideways. It's okay when it's going forwards or backwards or looking straight, but when it's sideways, sometimes they just continue to slide. So he did a good job to keep it out of the wall. He's now in a little bit of no man's land. He now 10 seconds back from Simon Avatal. Gabriel Pereira has got the gap down to 2.7 seconds at the front of GTD. And John Miller, again, closing in. It is now 3.3 seconds. So he's closing in very, very quickly at the moment, John Miller.
Yeah, this battle for GTD is certainly going to heat up at the end. And, you know, Miller, his past form in this series has been very good. He was the main challenger to Brian Lockwood last round at Road Atlanta, but unfortunately he was unable to make good on that. And at Phillip Island, he lost to the win through a pit speeding penalty, which was a big shame for him. But once again, he's showing that he is one of the most capable drivers in the GTD field.
He always seems to have pace right at the end of the race too. He starts not quite as strong, and then as the race progresses, the car comes to him and he goes faster and faster and faster. So John Miller is never out of it until the checkered flag flies, because we know that he's always going to come strong at the end. Tyson Meyer has dropped from Robert Harris, meanwhile. It's now up to 2.2, and Johansson is now in draft range of Tyson Meyer.
Yeah, very, very short gap between those guys now. Draft should just start to come in. And I think Meyer's tyres have well and truly given up now, because he's not able to match Harris in every single braking zone now.
No, he's really struggling, isn't he? That sliding he was doing earlier may not have hurt him at that point, but now is where it will be starting to hurt. Those tyres will be screaming, praying and hoping that there's not long left to go. Only 15 minutes of racing. And have a look at how close John Miller is now. 1 lap ago it was 3.5 seconds. It's now 1.2. You can see just at the bottom of the screen there, Zach Plummer in that Audi. He will be stressing big time right now. Now, we said that Miller, only driver to take tyres at the pit stop. This is the point now where those new tyres really, really work out. Lost a bit of ground in the pit stop, but now is when he's going to gain it all back.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to be, I think, an assured podium at the very least for John Miller with that fresh rubber. You see the way he closes the gap, especially through these fast corners. He's just able to keep the car nice and planted through those opening turns, and so aggressive under brakes, right on the back of Plummer already into the slow arena section.
Amazing how quickly he closed that gap up. Probably won't have the run down the Wellington Straight. Love that. That corner there is actually so deceptive as well, because the car becomes so loaded. You want to get that run perfect, but at the same time the car just wants to break out on you and drift even wider. Now into the more traditional section of the circuit. It's Jason Withrow has come back into the pits for another stop.
Okay, interesting. That's it has not been a good run for Jason Withrow, has it? No. I wonder what this might be for. He has been through the pits a couple times before in this one. Maybe he hasn't quite taken enough fuel to finish, and this is just a splash. Yeah,
either that, or maybe he's decided it's too hard to drive with the tyres in their current condition, as through goes John Miller. And Plummer did not put up too much of a fight there, so that is position gained. John Miller back into another podium spot, and this will definitely help his championship fight as he tries to get a little bit of ground back on Brian Lockwood in this championship. We're going to go back up the front of GTLM because it is under a second between Johansson and Meyer. This gap is closing. Last lap by, fastest car on track is the one on screen, the 99 of Enzo Johansson.
This is going to be a great battle for second place right at the end. Update on Jason Withrow, by the way. It looks like he's retired the car. He brought that thing into the pits and then exited the machine. So I think we might have to say goodbye to Jason Withrow.
Unfortunate. He was going along not too bad, but he's dropping down through the timesheets as well. So unfortunate for him to not be able to finish the race. Tyson Meyer actually has closed the gap back to Harris. Now back under 2 seconds again. But Johansson looking really strong at this point of the race. You can see from the car behaviour that he... Oh, jeez, look at how much grass he took there. But the car behaviour looks so strong and positive for Enzo Johansson. So he's looking very, very good at the moment. I've just seen Shane Cameron and Andrew Fawcett have changed positions again for about the third time on this lap. So I think you're right in your answer before that they're just out there having fun. Definitely what they're doing right now.
Yeah, certainly having a lob, as a certain Jared Philsell would say. But these guys up the front, I reckon Meyer at this point he'll be starting to turn his attention more towards Johansson than Harris, because you can see that the gap is closing very quickly. You can see that Johansson has that confidence in his BMW. So the time for him to attack is now. And for Tyson Meyer, the time to defend is soon.
Yeah, exactly right. And Meyer's got to be very, very careful of a lunge from Johansson. I mean, at the moment, he's maintaining that gap quite nicely. That lap by, probably the lap times between Johansson and Meyer, 57.414 for Johansson, 57.415 for Tyson Meyer. 1/1000 separating those two cars. Harris a 57.8, so he's lost 4/10 on that lap. So it's definitely not over between these guys. And Pereira to Stanley has been fluctuating between 2.5 and 3.5 seconds. So Ferris Stanley still not 100% settled at the lead of GTD. Gabriel Pereira coming back at him, but at the moment Stanley's looking okay, but that gap still closing ever so slightly.
Only just. We might see those guys come together a bit more towards the end. We've still got 10 minutes to go, few laps for anything drastic to happen, and we know that that drastic things happen quite a bit in this series. That's what makes it so entertaining, such a great championship. And around a track like Silverstone, a lot of open space, a lot of areas where you feel like you can push super hard, but the track will bite you. It's got grass right next to the track, which you don't see a lot at modern Grade 1 circuits.
Last time we looked at this gap race, sorry to cut you off there. Remember I said last time we looked at it was 2.7 seconds gap between third and first? 1.8.
I see. Yeah.
This is getting a lot closer and a lot closer very quickly. 5 laps to go when they cross the line, we believe. Oh, that was too aggressive on the curb there for Johansson. It's just cost him a little bit of time. But Harris to Meyer 1.2, Meyer to Johansson 7/10, 1.9 first to third.
Harris did another high 57 that time round. So either he's just in coast mode to finish the race, or he's got fuel dramas.
Or both.
Or both.
When we saw Tyson Meyer tucked in behind Robert Harris, it did look like Meyer was saving fuel. Robert Harris did not look like he was saving fuel when he was tucked in behind Meyer. So fuel could be the issue here. Maybe he's predicted it was going to be 1 lap less than what the count will be, and he's just checking up to make sure that it doesn't run an extra lap. But yeah, it's interesting how much this gap's closing. Now 1.6 separate the top 3. This is getting very, very spicy very, very quickly.
Let's have a listen to Robert Harris in the zone coming up to Cops, see if he lifts off early. Up into 6th.
No.
Well, no, seems like a regular line through Cops. He did seem to be taking it very easy on the downshifts into Brooklands, though, so I think he is starting to wind it down a bit.
Wondering if he's just being cautious to make sure he doesn't get another slowdown, whereas the guys behind him being a little bit more aggressive. Because he's already had that one, doesn't want to get another one at this point to cost him the race win. But it is now 1.5 first to third. Have a look at the gap. You can see 1.5 seconds. So another 3/10 on this lap. This is getting really close really quickly.
Yeah, and Harris, he ran just a little wide through Stowe. The rear end just started to get away from him a little bit. That's brought Meyer even further into contention, and he is dragging Johansson up with him.
This is great to watch now. 1.3 separating these guys. 3 laps to go. No, 4 laps to go now. So nothing separating our front 3 cars. The battles in the back of the field are all fairly settled. Pereira still 3.5 seconds back. Meyer, how did he hold on there?
Oh my goodness. I have absolutely no idea. I'm not even going to try to work that out. Those tyres are giving their very last for Tyson Meyer right now.
Harris just has to hold on. Doesn't have to defend hard yet. Just wants to manage that gap, but he'll be worried about... I think he'll be more worried about Johansson than Tyson Meyer at the moment, because Johansson's looking really strong. His car looks more comfortable than Tyson Meyer's at the moment.
Yeah, that's the thing. Meyer's incredibly quick, but he does seem to make those little mistakes that just hold him back a little bit. You're not seeing that with Johansson at the moment. He's just putting away those consistent lap times, and the car behavior is staying beautifully consistent corner to corner. Harris has actually managed to gap these guys a little bit in that last section.
Traffic, though.
Oh, yeah.
Wrong spot to get traffic, too, because this is going to compromise him. Oh!
Oh, no.
Force it to run off the circuit to try and get out of the way. He's done a good job, actually, to get out of the way, but that would have been nerve-wracking there for Harris. Meyer right there. Johansson there, now under a second, separating the top 3. Harris has had a slowdown.
It happened again! Oh, no. I can't believe it.
So now Tyson Meyer leads this race, and Enzo Johansson is tucked right under the rear wing, and they've still got traffic. 3 laps to go when they cross the line. This is still well and truly on.
My goodness, I cannot believe the race that we are getting. This is the battle for the lead, guys. Absolutely fantastic gaps. And Meyer finally making his way past there. So does Johansson. And we see a recovering Robert Harris right behind them. I went back and had a look at Harris. It didn't look like he got a slowdown at the S's.
Okay, so maybe he got it even earlier. Maybe he got it going through Stowe, possibly. And
No. Stowe's the corner after. I think.
Oh, sorry, through Cops.
Doesn't look like anything happened there either.
Strange. Okay. Meyer defending hard.
Yeah, he certainly is. You can tell he's properly in defensive mode now. Harris is out of the picture, at least for the next few laps. So all Meyer needs to focus on is keeping Johansson behind him.
What a fight we're going to have all the way to the finish here. That is 1, 2, 3 on screen, all in the one shot. Nothing separates our first 3 cars, and they're all using all of the runoff that they can now. This is getting really interesting.
Yeah, certainly is. Hello, Jay's dog. Tyson Meyer, a little bit easier into the turns once again. You see that behavior from his car, and Enzo Johansson, his car's just so level. I can't believe how much difference there is between these cars in terms of grip.
It's a great fight. Half a second separate 1, 2, 3 in this race. After 86 minutes of racing, 2 laps to go when they cross the line. We've got nothing separating our top 3. Every other battle is almost over. But our top 3 are going to fight all the way to the end. 3 minutes to go. Another slowdown for Harris. Or is that an issue, an incident?
I think that must have been a slide, because, oh yeah, wow. Goodness me, man, the slide through club. Incredible. He was already trying to correct it before the apex. Great save.
Great driving there from Robert Harris. He's dropped a little bit now. He may not be able to come back. But Enzo Johansson is ready to pounce.
He certainly is, and there's an awful lot of opportunities at the circuit to send one up the inside. He's had plenty of opportunities to practice that. Now he just needs to put it into reality. But Meyer, he's got a lot to fight for as well. He wants to back up his win at Road America. He wants to start making a dent in this championship that Harris has started to run away with at the start of the season. What can Johansson do in the midst of all of this? He's got a lot to fight for too. Remember, $50 in cash going to the race winners of both classes. So they are racing for a tangible reward here, as well as prizes from GoPro at the end of the season.
What a battle. It's still anyone's race because Harris, although he's 1.3 seconds back at the moment, that doesn't take much to close that up. One little incident between these two, some aggressive defending, some aggressive attacking, could change all of it and let Harris take the position. So this last lap is going to be absolutely heated. Bring it on, white flag will fly this time by.
It certainly shall, and what we got to remember is, it's almost a move there from Johansson, but he's not able to put it up the inside just there. Remember Vettel and Verstappen at the British Grand Prix just a few weeks ago. You don't want a repeat of that, but crucially, Meyer is getting better exits. He's able to maintain the gap down the straight. Yeah, unfortunate there. Oh no, and there's been a problem for Johansson. He's slowed up.
Yeah, I think he's had a slowdown. Or is he short on fuel? No, he's definitely had an issue like a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, it would have been because he ran really wide on the exit of club, too wide.
So as long as Tyson Meyer's got enough fuel in the tank, this one may be his.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see, because... is he short shifting? I can't quite tell. He does seem to be taking it very easy.
Yeah, he's just not pushing at all now, is he? I think he's borderline on fuel and just deciding to bring it home, and I think that's what's happened to Harris too. He's just dropping it back a little bit and just making sure he brings it home now. Well, now he's starting to come back again, so maybe just needed to save a dash of fuel and decided he might as well save it and then go back for another attack. But Tyson Meyer, for now, leads the way. What a race.
Wow, yeah, I mean, like, the drama happened at the start of the final lap. I mean, I would have preferred it was at the end for an exciting finish, but nonetheless, what an end to the race, and what a way for the result to be decided. Meyer, I think he has the gap. I think he's got this.
Not 100% settled yet. We'll find out in the next couple of corners, but it's been a great drive from from all three of the guys at the front. Meyer, Johansson and Harris have been a class above everyone else in this race. Tyson Meyer coming through club for the final time. Well-deserved victory.
Absolutely. So Meyer brings the Geodesic Racing Ferrari across the line for the last time for a fantastic win at Silverstone, backing up his opening win at Road America, and Johansson, an incredible second place. Fantastic drive from him. Harris, well, it was still a brilliant result from him, but there was a lot of what might have beens there. Jonathan Brohl making it fourth. Very strong result for him. And Marcus Deck, well, he's been one of the guys that suffered the most issues in the GTLM field. I think he'll be happy with the top five.
Yeah,
and Ferris Stanley with the win.
Yeah, Ferris Stanley, congratulations to him. Led it from the green flag all the way through. Only laps he didn't lead were when he come into the pits, and he only didn't lead for one lap. So Stanley, a great drive across the line. Gabriel Pereira finishing in second, and John Miller, he closed that gap down so quickly. It was 30 seconds between he and Pereira when he got into third. He's going to finish 15 seconds back. So that's a phenomenal drive in those last 7 laps to gain 15 seconds. John Miller the third in third position for him, but wow, we're at the front of the field. What a race that was.
Yeah, I mean, I can't quite believe it, you know. The races have been brewing up to be like that all season so far, and to get that finish, and I'm really hyped for future rounds of the championship. We do still have half the season to go, so there's plenty more to come from the Geodesic GoPro Championship. Here are the unofficial results. Meyer from Johansson, 1.8 seconds the gap at the end of it. Harris completing the podium. Jonathan Brohl, Marcus Deck, and Trevor Clement. A very strong drive from Clement. Some impressive fuel usage across the course of that one, with Simon Avital and Justin Rem completing the top 8.
And story of what might have been with Withrow, Whalen, Quinn and Caron all not finishing the race. We go to the GTD results. Ferris Stanley 5.6 seconds in the end over Pereira. Then Miller in third. Zach Plummer in fourth with Jack Andrak, Shane Cameron, Andrew Fawcett and Jordan Fisher. The top 8, Andrew Taylor, Jesper Dralica and David Browning. The rest of the field with Goba and Coffard not able to take the start. But we'll have a very, very quick break, and then when we come back, we'll have some driver interviews and wrap up what has been an awesome round 4 here at Silverstone. Here on SimSpeed TV, this is the Geodesic GoPro Championship.
Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing. I said, hey, hey, there's no surrender. Let me hear my battle cry.
40 of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got him for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
To the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Ray Alfala into the outside wall.
He's gonna pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's gonna get them all done with. What amazing!
Lee to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is gonna touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside, and Trunkgate goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
Trying, there's contact though.
Slide left to the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact. He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schubert, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
It's post-race time on SimSpeed TV on the iRacing Esports Network. We have just seen the end of a fantastic round in the Geodesic GoPro Championship, round 4 at Silverstone, and the stakes were very high at this one in particular. Like the last round, the drivers were racing for $50 in cash for the winner in both classes, thanks to Alpine Stars. And the lucky winner is Tyson Meyer on account of his fantastic performance in the GTLM class. Tyson, welcome to the commentary box. It looked like an incredibly interesting one out there. You seem to be having your troubles with the car, but holding on for the victory. We don't seem to be getting Tyson, unfortunately. So we'll give him a moment and go to our GTD winner just briefly. Ferris Stanley, welcome to the commentary box. Action Sim Sport taking the victory in the GTD class at Silverstone. How does that feel?
I really quite happy, but so far I was happy about the pace. Also, the quality could be improved a bit since I spent at last sector. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. Also, really good pace too for Gabriel to put me pressure on the first 30 minutes. So yeah, after the rest, we're quite happy. Also, the take a race out the fuel a bit on really low. So yeah, quite really happy with that. So.
Excellent stuff. What was it like in terms of fuel strategy in this race? Because we did notice a lot of the GTDs were taking their pit stops earlier than we expected.
I think, for my opinion, is that taking pit stop early is really bad idea because you're gonna take heavy fuel. Also the tires are pretty much dead because it's for me. I don't know why people take early stop because you're gonna lose a lot of time. So yeah, I think take it like at the end of eating the fuel. I think so. It's a good strategy. So yeah, I don't know.
All good, but nonetheless, you've got $50 US in cash as a result of your victory, and certainly setting up team morale at Action Sim Sport for future rounds of the championship.
Yeah, I don't know how gonna do it on the Monday, so yeah, gonna continue. gonna continue the rest. So hopefully the next round. Sorry, that's it.
Yeah.
So
Well, before we let you go, Ferris, who would you like to thank in terms of sponsors and shout outs?
for far we don't have sponsor yet, because this is a new team. So I was just gonna thank Zach and Hayden. Unfortunately, Hayden pick a wrong car at the enter this session, so I have bad luck for him. Also, thanks for Zach for strategy and the setup too. And also thanks for GoPro Geodesic. And I think that's it up, I guess.
Thank you very much for joining us, Ferris Stanley from Action Sim Sports, your GTD winner. Let's take a look and see if Tyson Meyer is able to communicate. Tyson, do you have us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Tyson Meyer, congratulations on your win. I was saying you seem to have some difficulties with the car, especially as the tires wore out, but my goodness, what a battle at the end.
Oh yeah, the battle at the end was fantastic, and the tires. It looked like everybody was struggling. I'm sure others were. Robert, it looked like, and Enzo as well. I think all of us got a slowdown or two, and this track is pretty brutal on the tires. I was kind of concerned, but man, after about 15 laps, really had to back it up on the entry and be a little bit more cautious.
Well, towards the end, I noticed you were congratulating Enzo Johansson on the fight that you guys had. What was it like from your perspective? Because it definitely seemed he was right on the attack at the end.
Oh, it was heart pounding. I could feel my heartbeat going up, and it was great. It was good, clean racing. It seemed like every corner he was right on me, and more or less who was getting a little better traction on the exit of the corners. It looked like his tires were shot as were mine.
Well, nonetheless, you managed to hold on for victory, and you're fighting with Robert Harris towards the start. Definitely set us up for that. From your perspective, Harris, I guess he was a real threat in this one, but unfortunately, the nature of the track just caught a lot of drivers out, as you said.
Yeah, I think he got a slowdown at not the best of time. Well, it's never good to get a slowdown, but looks like he got a slowdown there towards the end um, when I was probably around just a second back. So that really hurt him. And I don't know how his tire situation was, but um, I guess I got lucky that I didn't get a slowdown. I think Enzo got one on the last lap, and then goalie got or Robert Harris got one. A few laps.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, it looks like you were the guy who ended up avoiding the most of that. Next round is at Spa, so you guys are definitely going to have a lot more fun with track limits there. Before we let you go, Tyson, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, the Geodesic team for getting this together, and Carlos and all the guys behind the scenes, and GoPro and Alpine Stars for sponsoring it, and my teammates and um, all my followers and subs and stuff on Twitch. They're always keeping me a little busy, and of course my wife for always dealing with me driving so much.
Well, it's turned out very profitable this time round. $50 US in cash going to you, Tyson Meyer. Thank you so much for joining us in the commentary box. Now, finally, we will go to the third place finisher in the GTD class. He was third on track and third in name. John Miller joins us. John, great pace at the end. You were one of the few to take tyres at the stop.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking at the data, I knew we were probably going to be below 30% there towards the ends of the race, and quite honestly, the way Ferris and Gabrielle were running, I figured, I'd take a gamble, and if I was the only one to take tires, then the guys who passed me were probably not going to be able to keep pace, and that's kind of what happened.
There was a bit of chaos at the start that the GTDs almost got involved in. How scary did things get for you out there?
It wasn't too bad back there. I was a little frustrated. I had a horrible qualifying and, starting in fourth. So my plan was to just kind of take it easy. But as far as the wrecks up front, it didn't really affect us too bad. It was just, there was some good driving and, respect. So I think that's all that it comes down to in our class for sure.
What about tire wear as well? Because again, your decision to take tires and the stop must have factored into that. This new to the sim layout at Silverstone has a very smooth but lower grip surface than the previous.
This track is brutal on tires, and I was a little surprised that more people didn't take tires. But again, had I been closer to the top two, I probably would not have taken tires and just try to kind of see where we ended up. But I figured, if anything, you never know what's going to happen if the tires get below 30%, and I figured that's where they would be towards the end. And again, I just took a gamble, and we didn't pick up any spots, we didn't lose any spots, so it is what it is.
Well, with Brian Lockwood's absence, you've certainly gotten a good leg up in terms of the standings. So coming into Spa, that's going to be an interesting one because it's even more brutal for off tracks and for slowdowns than Silverstone is. So it's definitely going to be a matter of taking it easy and keeping it between the lines.
I think so, and Spa is it's going to be a challenge for us, those of us that are driving the Mercedes. The Audi's probably 4 to 5 tenths quicker per lap around there, and for us, we're just going to have to keep it on track, like you said, kind of limit the off tracks, and just try to run a smooth race and kind of see where we can end up with it.
Who gets it done for you, John?
This week, it's the Racing Network and Racecraft Engineering. We have merged, and we've become Racecraft Esports. So this will probably be the last week in the TRN livery. But I'd like to thank everyone involved with that merger. I think it's going to pay dividends for everyone going forward. Obviously, a shame not to see Brian here this week, but at the same time, I think he's going to have a little more fun than we are this weekend. Racing in the Global MX5 Cup, so shout out to him, and also a special thank you to Kane Halliburton this week for helping me a good bit with the setup.
Thank you very much for joining us, John Miller. Joining us in the commentary box there, third place in GTD. Well, Jay, that brings to an end proceedings for this morning for us, tonight for our friends over in the Americas. What an event once again.
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal race, a phenomenal event again, and really can't wait to go to Spa in 2 weeks' time. It's going to be a fantastic race there. Spa always turns it on in these cars, so heading there with a multi-class race at Spa with GTD and GTLM, cannot wait. So make sure you do tune in 2 weeks' time, same place, same channel here on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure you do subscribe as well while you're here. And we're really looking forward to the second half of this series. It's only going to get better, stronger, and faster from here on in.
Absolutely. Next round is at Spa in 2 weeks' time, so make sure to tune in for that. So for the ending of this broadcast, thank you so much for watching, and of course, big thanks to Geodesic Racing with GoPro and Alpine Stars for their sponsorship of this series, the provision of prizes, and also to Building Optimization Systems, our replay sponsor. They all get it done for us here at SimSpeed TV. It's bye for now from us, your winners, Tyson Meyer and Ferris Stanley in GTLM and GTD respectively. Bye for now from the Geodesic GoPro Championship.
Fantastic. This is GT Racing right now. He's got traction. He's going around the outside of both of them.
guys. I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.